Hello, everyone, and welcome to Classroom Without Walls, and another special episode for What is School For? And my name is Dr. AI. If this is the first time that you hear me speak, I'm a professor turned entrepreneur, and I worked in higher education for 10 plus years, 15 plus years before I quit my job and start my own education company, Classroom Without Walls. And so I have been doing a number of live training. And so today is part two of a live training series that I have been doing, and the feedback has been really amazing. And we're talking about what are the required skills for people to become career and life ready. And this discussion is especially relevant to parents who have high schoolers, who have college students, also who have college graduates. Okay, so for parents and also for educators, if you work with kids, high schoolers, college students, and college graduates, this training is perfect for you. And before we dive into the specific content for my training, I just want to give a quick shout out to StreamYard for being a sponsor of my show in the last 2 years. StreamYard is really my favorite third-party tool to go live on social media channels. And so if you want to check out StreamYard, you can use my link in the comment section that allows you to check out StreamYard for free for 2 weeks. And so, yeah, let me know, everyone, where you are joining me live from and geographically speaking, because I really, really love my global audience. Okay, so let me do a recap of what we discussed. So today's live is going to be about like 30 minutes. And let me do a quick recap of what we discussed last week. Okay, so last week, and let me share the link to watch the replay in the chat box. So if you watch the replay, if you missed the live interview from last week, so here is the replay link that you can use to watch the interview. So last week we talked about why grade is not what actually matters the most to help teenagers and young adults become career ready. And I want to say this, like as a typical Asian student, and I think for so many years, I truly believed that earning those A's were what I needed the most to become successful in life. And I held that belief until I graduated with my PhD. So it is safe to say from primary school to PhD, for so many years, I was really learning for the sake of earning A. And I got so many A's in almost all of my classes, only to discover in real life, grade is not what matters the most to help me become successful in life. And in fact, the skills that actually helped me the most to get to where I am today are the skills that I developed after I started my business. And so that's what we discussed last time. I give you guys lots of links. We talk about quite a few research to really discuss, okay, I actually proved to you, it's not just me thinking that grades do not matter, but I showed you guys hardcore evidence and lots of links. We also discuss what are the future ready skills, okay? So that is a quick recap for from last week. Okay, and today I want to continue the discussion. What are the required skills for teenagers, young adults to become career and life ready? And I want to. So right now, actually, I'm reading 2 books, and I want to share some highlights from 2 books that I have been reading so far. And if time allows, I also want to discuss 2 of my favorite Adobe studies. For those of you who don't know, I'm an Adobe education leader. I'm an Adobe insider. So I really love the research. I just love everything Adobe does because I truly believe creativity is one of the biggest missing links in today's children's education. And so if time allows, I also want to interpret 2 super important Adobe studies for you guys that can really give you incredible insights regarding your children's career and future. And the very first book that I want to talk about is this one. This one has just brought to my attention. The book is called Thrivers. And the second book I want to discuss, if time allows, is called The Limitless Mind. Okay. And if you actually join me live on Amazon, and on Amazon, I actually have a library. and an online store that actually highlights all of the books that I recommend. Okay, so to go to Amazon, you just enter in your browser classroom without words.live, and then you are going to be redirected to this live show on Amazon. When you go to my Amazon page, you can see I have an online store. So I actually pinned this book and this book if you want to check both of them out. Okay, so let's first talk about this book. And this is actually I'm currently reading this book, haven't finished yet. And by such a fascinating book, which is really relevant to what we are discussing today and what we discussed last week. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And again, everyone, let me know in the comment section where you are joining me live from. I'd love to hear from you and what questions that you have. So I'm going to share my screen. And I want to show you this very first book that I'm going to discuss. And this book is called Thrivers. Again, if you go to my Amazon, maybe I can just show you. So this is my Amazon Live. So if you use that link, classroom without words .live, and you can see that this is my online store. And then this is, and you can see that this is my online store. And then and so this is a book here. Okay, so let's talk about the very first book, The Thrivers. This is such a fascinating book. And I'm going to highlight 2 paragraphs for you. Even if you haven't had a chance to read this book, you just heard this book, just reading those 2 paragraphs will really help understand what we're talking about here. Okay, so the very first paragraph, I'm just going to read this quickly for you. We think we have to push our kids to do more, achieve more, and be more. But we are modeling the wrong traits, like rule following and caution. And this is something I talk so much inside my program at Classroom Without Words. And I really believe the future belongs to not conformists, right? Conformists, they are rule followers. Conformists, they are always very cautious and they follow rules all the time. When you think about, okay, I want to stop sharing this screen for a second because I want you to see my face. And because when you think about our kids, they spend so many years since like kindergarten, very young, primary school, they're being told by their teachers, boys on the left, girls on the right, do this at 9 o'clock. Everybody's going to do this. And like 10 a.m. is like snack time, lunch time, bathroom time. So everything is told to our kids. So what is the number one skill that many of our students have mastered, which is rule following? And oftentimes the parents that we praise our kids, hey, Jason, Allison, good job. You listen to the teacher. You're just amazing. So we really condition our children for a number of years to just following rules, listen to the teacher. I mean, I think to some extent, you absolutely have to show respect to the teacher, listening to the teacher, follow the rules. But that's only to a certain extent. So when your children come back home, you actually need to help them uncondition that, because real life, especially if you want to become a visionary, if you want to become really successful in your life, you are going to be rewarded by being a disruptor, right? So I'm going to share this with you. So this is like an e-commerce brand I launched last year. I intentionally call this is a yearly planner. I call this disruptors planner because I discovered that the future belongs to disruptors, especially young children. And sometimes I discover at least in my case, okay, so the more, the better, the higher the grade that the students earn, the more they tend to follow rules. Okay, I was just talking about myself, and you let me know in your own children or in the students that you work with, do you observe a similar pattern? So I was a straight A student for like 10 plus years, and I don't think I ever earned a B or a C. Like that was just like unacceptable. So I got A in every single class, and as a result of that, I was a very good rule follower. So it took me some time to actually become a disruptor. And so I really love that. I think this is something that I think this is a future ready skill that your children need to be a disruptor, not always listening to the rules, but actually think about how can we break the rules? How can we bend the rules? And how can we innovate? Really have that critical thinking. Okay. So I'm going to go back to share my screen again. And so yeah, so we got the wrong traits like rule following and caution. Okay, those are wrong traits. Okay, so really stop telling your children, hey, like listen to a teacher, following rules. It is not really helping them become super successful in life. Okay, and research shows it is not working. This kind of striver mindset isn't just making our children unhappier, but actually that's the opposite. Okay, and it doesn't really help them to thrive in an uncertain time. Okay, so that is what is not working. This is the reality. And what is actually important is this paragraph. So thrivers are different. They flourish in our fast-paced, digital-driven, and oftentimes uncertain environment. Why? So through her research, she actually discovered that, okay, the difference comes down not to grades or test scores. Okay, everyone, this is so important. This is actually what we discussed last time, because after working with the 2,000 students over the last 20 years, and I talk to parents almost on a daily basis, and I can't tell you how many parents I totally understand why parents think like this, because I used to think like this. But this is not working. If you only think that grades, test scores are what matter the most to your children's career readiness, you are absolutely missing the bigger picture. And my entire program at Classroom Without Walls is designed to really help students develop not test-taking skills, but those skills, as the author highlighted, that can really, really help your children become successful in life, including confidence, empathy, self-control, integrity, curiosity, perseverance, and optimism. Okay, those are what matters the most. Everyone, you should just take a screenshot of what I have here, or take out a piece of paper and write down those 7 traits, because those are the things much, much, much more important than GPA test scores to really help your children succeed in life. And just the element, if you ask me, among all the 7 traits, which one is the most important one? I will tell you, no question at all, self-control. And I remember I read this longitudinal study. I actually interviewed the author for that book on my show. And he actually shared with me a longitudinal study. They followed children. And let me go back so I can see you guys. And so they followed children for 30 plus years. For 30 plus years, to really understand what are the deciding factors to really help those kids to have more happiness, to have more wealth, and just to have a really, really good life. So they follow those kids when they were students to in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. So it's a longitudinal, super, super long study. And they discovered, so they analyzed 5 characters. One is a friendliness, another one is openness to new ideas, and one is self-control, another one is test scores and grades, and there's another one I forgot. Okay, so among the 5 factors, there's one that is the most predictive of a student's long-term health, wealth, and happiness. I think those 3 are what every single parent or educator we want our kids to have. But guess which one is the most predictive factor? Self-control. And that is something I intentionally work with my students at Classroom Without Walls and my own children. I have 3 boys myself, and I really intentionally want them to cultivate. Okay. And so that is what this book about. So this book talks about those 7 traits, why those 7 traits are important, and how can you help your children to really embody those 7 traits. And I want to share with you a really powerful exercise that my students and I and my family and my own children that we have been practicing at home related to those 7 traits. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen for a second to let you know how we actually do the exercise. And just give me 1 second. I am sharing my screen. Okay. See how prepared I am, right? So if you are enjoying this, let me know. And so here are, okay, I need to go back here. Okay, so here are the 7 traits. And what you want to do with those 7 traits is that as a whole family, and I want you to sit down with your children on a table, maybe after dinner, and you ask your kids, okay, So please rank those 7 traits in terms of what you have, what you do not have yet. Okay, so from the strongest in terms of how you have embodied this trait to the weakest. Okay, so that's what I did with my kids. And I also don't just be an observer, also be a participant. Okay, so as your children work on this, you do this. And I have been doing this with some of my students at Classroom Without Walls. It is absolutely incredible, the results. Okay, so they all have a rank. It is likely that your children are going to have different rankings, and you are also going to have different rankings. So after they rank this, and what I did was that with my students, we did this over Zoom, but with my own kids, I asked them to have put everything on a sticky notes, and so they put the sticky notes on the wall so we can really see it. And so then the second step is that I asked them to choose a relatively weaker trait, or like both of my students and my own children, they just chose the bottom, right? So I think for one of my students, and she's working on confidence. Like I'm just like not confident enough. Another student is absolutely struggling with self-control, right? There's just like lots of distractions, especially for high schoolers. There's video game, there's TikTok, there's social media, nonstop distractions. So how can you really cultivate that self-control, right? So what you want to do next is that after you choose one item, so this is a page from my my planner. So I shared with you earlier, and I'm going to walk you through this process. Okay, just give me 1 second. So this is a page from the planner. I can even share this with you, how I walk through my student with this process. So this is a page from my planner. So it is the yearly transformation. It doesn't really matter. You can just use this. It flows really well for this exercise. Okay, and I'm going to go back to my screen share. And so let's say that, I think many students nowadays are really struggling with, hold on. So if you are interested in checking out the planner, let me have the link on. So the link is on the screen if you're interested in checking out the planner. Okay. So let's say that many of my students, I noticed that they really struggle with self-control. And I really do not blame them, because when you think about social media, the video games, everything is designed to make your children become addicted. If your kid is now addicted to social media, this social media platform is now doing what they're supposed to do. They're now making money. They make money based on how many hours that your children are actually spending on social media. So it's really a very hard battle to win. Okay, and so let's use self-control as example of my example. Okay, so the goal is to really help me master self-control. Okay, so or become better in terms of self-control. And then you discuss why. Because what I've learned is that when you have a goal in mind, when the goal is really personal, and you are more likely to conquer the goal, the challenge. Okay, so why is having self-control really important for you? You can say that having self-control for me means that I'm going to finish my homework on time, and I can actually have some free time, or I'm going to make my parents really proud. I'm just going to feel really good about myself. I'm going to show up as a responsible young man, as a responsible young lady, like that. Okay, yeah, or maybe having have self-control so that I can show up to work on time, right? So whatever reasons it is, write down that personal reason. And the third step is that, okay, self-control is really, really important to me. What are the challenges, the obstacles that are stopping me from having self-control? Maybe social media is a reason, or maybe I'm going to sleep too late. I really struggle getting up early. So whatever challenges that you have to help you accomplish the goal, and then you write down the challenges here, and then you develop an action plan to overcome the challenge, right? So like, for example, and you just cannot stop looking at TikTok. Every time you sit on the table, you really have a hard time doing what you are supposed to do on your computer. You are always on your phone. So maybe that is a challenge. So an action plan is that, okay, every time I sit on my computer, I'm going to put my phone in a different room. Or I'm even going to lock my phone. One of my friends actually did this. So lock my phone in a closet. And I'm not even going to touch my phone until I finish the project, or taking breaks. So I'm going to devote 30 minutes to this task. And after 30 minutes, I will take out my phone, give myself 10 minutes break to do whatever I need to check out on my phone. So you need a specific plan. Okay. And you can do this for the entire family. That's exactly what I did, the process I did with my students and my family. So I have a theme that a trait that I want to work on this year. My husband also has one. My own children also have one, and my students. So each of us, we have our own action plan to really work on the trait. And the beauty, they talk about in this book is that even if they don't have this, if you know how to develop them and work hard, everybody can embody those traits. And this is exactly what I observed in my own kids. Okay. So that is the number one point I want to make is that grades do not matter in terms of helping your kid to become thrivers, super successful in life, doing what they love, generating income, generating impact, and have the freedom, have a really good lifestyle that they really enjoy while making a positive contribution to their family, to our society. Okay, so those are the 7 traits that you need to help your children to cultivate, and they also need to understand why they are so important. Okay. And we have about 10 minutes left. I can discuss a little bit about this book. And so this is another book that this book I actually just finished reading. It's called Limitless Mind. Again, if you go to my Amazon store, you can find this book. I will also share the link in the chat box. And so hold on, give me 1 second. And I'm going to see if you guys have questions, feel free to let me know what questions you have in the chat box. Okay. And I am going to just check different platforms and ask if people have questions. Okay. I'm going to give me 1 second. I'm checking. It is a lot going on right now. And we're going to just check out different platforms to see what questions people have. And the second book I want to discuss is so this one. So this book really talks about, I believe, this a very important future ready skill. It's not listed, which is not listed in this book, but I believe it's really important, is resilience. And resilience in terms of dealing with failures and mistakes. And one thing that most students and even all of us, we're being conditioned by our school and learning environment to believe that failures are bad, mistakes are bad. When you are confused, it is also not a good thing, right? And how many of us parents are guilty, myself included, when our children come back home, we ask, hey, what is your score on that test? If they didn't get a good score, and we just communicate a strong sense of disappointment as opposed to celebration. Very few parents can actually do that. So what the message we're sending to our kids as a result of that is failures are bad, low scores are bad. When you are making a mistake, that is bad. But do you know such messages, they are they are contradictory to actually how our brain works. So hear me out for a second. Do you know that our brain actually grows the most when we are struggling, when we are making mistakes? Okay. And I think I mentioned this a little bit in last week's training. So what they did is that the author, they actually scanned a student's brain when they are doing exams. And they noticed that when the students are getting every single question correct, there's actually nothing is happening inside the brain. However, when they're getting the questions wrong, they're like struggling, what should I do about this? Guess what? The neurons in their brain literally fired up. They start making connections, they're growing. Fascinating, right? So the thing that we are praising our students does not really matter. The things that we are punishing, blaming our kids for making failures, making mistakes, those are actually the very factors that help our brain grow. So really think about that for a second. And that's why I really believe a very important trait that we really need to help our students to have is this fearless mentality, right? Not being afraid of failures, not being afraid of mistakes, and the resilience, right? And actually have the resilience to bounce back when they fail. This is something I work so hard with my students at Classroom Without Walls, because almost every single kid who joins my program, they are afraid of failures. They are afraid of mistakes. And with certain techniques, you can really help them remove those fears. Okay, but I want to share my screen with you for a second. And okay, here. So I actually took some screenshots or from this book, okay, the limitless mind. Okay, again, if you go to my Amazon, I could also feature this book here. Okay, so okay, so what I want to share with you is I took screenshot of a few pages from the book, but you will see here that our brains are in a constant state of growth and change. So do you know that your brain is now fixed? Every single day when we wake up in the morning, our brains are different than they were the day before. This is great news, right? That's so exciting. So that's why when we label our kids, that's why I'm really anti-education in terms of how they label our students, right? You are A student, you are a B student, you are a C student, you are gifted. All of those labels perpetuate students in that state. And even worse, they send our children a message that is your identity. Means that you are never going to change. If you are a student, you are just going to be a student. If you are a B student, you are just going to be a B student. This is bad for both A students and B students in the sense that if you tell us A student, oh, you are so gifted, you are just like so smart, you are just amazing. So if they embody that identity, guess what's going to happen? When they actually make a mistake, their mind is going to tell them, oh my God, I'm supposed to be gifted. I'm supposed to be an A student. Why am I failing and struggling? And they will give up. Instead of thinking, if I work harder, that I can actually overcome this. They don't think like that because they have been conditioned for so many years to believe that they are gifted, they are smart, they are an A student. So when they are not an A student, they question, oh, maybe I'm not that smart. That is a great way to hurt their self-confidence. That's why you will see sometimes good students, they actually commit suicide because they failed an exam, because that is so contradictory to the identity that they have been told for so many years, especially in the gifted community. Like if you actually read research studying students who are gifted, they have lots of mental health issues because let's face it, everybody is going to have challenges and mistakes, right? But it is a different thing when you are being labeled as gifted, as talented for so many years. You just cannot accept that you actually failed. That's literally what happened to me after so many years after I graduated from undergraduate. As I shared with you guys earlier, I was a straight A student. I still remember the very first rejection I got. That almost like killed me. I was crying. I was thinking about ending my life. This was like a disaster. I'm going to like be laughed at. It was awful simply because of that condition. I thought I was the smartest kid. I was the best student. I just couldn't accept a different identity. So you see the danger? Oh, it's so great to see. Hello, oh my God, friends. So great to see you guys. Okay. So that's why I notice this in my students at Classroom Without Walls. It doesn't matter if they're A student, if they are C students, and they absolutely struggle with this, how they interpret failures and mistake and their resilience level. So we discuss how this is really bad for A students. And this is also not good, this type of labeling to treat our brain as if everything is fixed, how this is also damaging to the B, to the C, to the not so good, academically speaking, students. Okay. And let's say that high school or like middle school, you're just like, not really into studying, things like that. So for all of your grades, it's just kind of B or C minus. So everyone is calling your parents. It's like, oh, you're just an average kid. You're just an average student. Oh, or she or he is just a B student or just a C student. Okay, so if you have been listening to that message for so long, and guess what's going to happen? You're also being conditioned. Oh, I'm just a B student. Why do I even try harder? Little do those students know that if they actually do try harder, they can definitely become A students, but they are not going to try harder because their identity is a B student because they have been told by teachers, friends, parents for so many years that's where they are, right? So therefore, they're not going to make extra effort to be outside of that state. Okay, does this make sense to you guys? And that's why like it's so important. So actually, let me share this with you to really understand and the way that we talk to our kids, like really understand that our brain is now fixed and really stop labeling our students. Every single student who joins class when I was, I treat them exactly the same. And I teach them. This is literally what I teach my students. Show them, hey, you know that even though you have been struggling for whatever for so many years, we can rewire that. We can rechange that. We can design a totally different future moving forward. If you know how to do it, it is totally possible, right? So you can see that this is what we discussed earlier, failures and mistakes. So when you are actually struggling, that's what this paragraph is talking about. Like, so the neurons inside our brain, they make connections and they stay connected, they become stronger. And as we learn, the more we struggle, the better the learning and the brain grows. I really, you need to, guys, you need to like write this down on this piece of paper right now, because it's not the more we're winning the game, the more that our brain grows. It is the more that we struggle, the more that we grow. So in a way that we should really reward those students who got to B, who got to C because they're struggling. Guess what? When they're struggling, they're actually learning something new. But if you just treat that, oh, you're just a B student, treat that as a fixed mindset, you are not really going to help your kid grow to the next level. And at Classroom Without Walls, this is how I talk to my students when we frequently talk about, share with me the biggest failure in your life. Like, wow. And actually, I noticed that more and more companies, as they interview students, they are asking questions, not like, hey, tell me about your most recent success. Like, hey, share with me your biggest failure. When I ask my students, I think it's an even better question. What is a good mistake that you made? And maybe you can write this down. Like, because children, they intuitively know that mistakes are bad, but when you are actually asking them what is a good mistake, I'm like, what is that? Mistakes are good. So you can really have a great discussion. At Classroom Without Walls, we celebrate failures, we celebrate mistakes. When my students are confused, I actually clap my hands. I was like, great, I'm so happy you are confused, because guess what? You are learning something new. Albert Einstein, one of my favorite quotes. If you have never made a mistake in your life, you have never tried anything new. So if you have a straight A student at home, I'll be as concerned as if you have a C students at home, because just different types of red flags, both are equally concerning, right? Because for the student, they're just playing safe, which is this book that we talked about, right? The Thriver book. What is not working? Rule following. This is not working. They are following rules. This is not helping your kid to step up, to become the leader. Rule following. Right? So that's what we're talking about. Students who are doing really well. But please don't take my message wrong. Okay, I'm not against students who do really well at school. I think that's amazing. You should celebrate that. You should reward them. What I'm saying is that if they are doing really well, they have a tendency to be rule followers. And as parents, when your children come back home, you need to recondition that, to create opportunities, to create chances for them to actually take risks, to actually break rules, to actually create their own rules, right? So I shared my my planner with you guys earlier. And the very first, so I actually have a disruptor manifesto, and one of them is I break, I create. I really wrote the disruptors manifesto with the students, with my students in mind, right? So it's good that you're following rules. I think in our society we need to a great extent following rules, but that's not enough, right? You also need to learn how. Not only I need to follow, but how can I break the rules? Okay, and let me check what questions you have. Okay, and let me know. I hope you are enjoying this conversation, and so I don't think I will have time to discuss. So I was also planning to talk about uh, two Adobe studies I really love. So what are the skills, what are the traits that matter the most to help your children become successful in life, to become career ready? But I don't think I try to keep my talk to 30 minutes. And so I think I'm going to discuss that next Friday. So I have been pretty consistent with those live trainings. So I go live every Friday at 9 a.m. ET time zone. And if you guys want to catch the next one, so definitely join me live. A quick recap. So today we discussed, and for those of you who are interested in learning more about life throughout the entire show, I have been talking about how we help students at Classroom Without Walls to really become career ready. We don't really help them with their test scores, but we help them develop those 7 traits, the skills that actually matter. Because guess what? Even if your children have the perfect test score, if they don't have those skills that I just mentioned, they are not going to be successful in life. So if you are interested in having a conversation, say how our program can help your children, so on the screen you see my calendar link. So please feel free to book a complimentary career and life readiness assessment with me or someone on my team. And we're going to talk with you and to see how we can help your kid to really master, give you a roadmap to help them become successful in life that really goes beyond test scores. Okay, and quick recap. So today we actually discussed a number of things. We did a deep dive into this book, The Thrivers, and we talked about 7 traits and why test scores are not what matter the most. And we talked about the 7 traits that really help your children get to the next level to become successful in life. And we also did an exercise. Remember, I shared this with you. And so we did an exercise like this, and how to help your children develop some of those 7 traits. And we also talk about this book. And some of the biggest takeaways from this book is that challenges are good, confusions are good, struggles are good, mistakes are good. Unlike what school is telling us, schools they punish mistakes, right? You got a lower grade when you make a mistake. But as parents, if you really care about your children's future, if you want them to become career ready, what you need to do is to celebrate mistakes, to celebrate failures. And in this book, they are talking about how our brain actually grows the most when we are struggling. Okay, so both of those are like absolutely true because I observed students at Classroom Without Walls, and this is what we do with our students. So if you can really help your kids with the right strategy and techniques, and you can really help them become career ready, not just like tunnel vision, great, that's what matters the most, but actually look at the broader picture. Wow, those are the skills that actually I need to master. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me on this live training. And if you guys have any questions, let me know. If you, I hope you enjoy this and what you think about this. And if you don't have any questions, and I don't think I see any questions, I'm going to end this right now. So thank you so much for spending 40 minutes with me. And I hope to see you again next Friday, same time, same place. Bye.